Hi, Dr. Pat McGuire here. Have you ever underestimated the potential of a child? How about one that had a disability? While I was in practice, I met a number of children who had their abilities underestimated because of diagnoses. I'd like to tell you about two of them. Now, they're both boys, and they both came to me at the end of their high school careers. Neither one could read at even a kindergarten level. One had a known chromosomal disorder, which I'm not going to discuss, and the other was considered intellectually disabled, but not otherwise specified because they didn't have an origin of the intellectual difficulties. The parents came because they felt that their children had not received the educational interventions that might have helped them move farther and be able to at least read a little bit. One of the parents had a known diagnosis of dyslexia. Now, dyslexia is one of the six, it's under learning disorders, which is one of the 6 neurodevelopmental disorders found in the DSM-5. Dyslexia is a neurologic, language-based disorder of phonemic sound and or phonologic awareness. Now, phonologic deals more with sound segments like syllables and words. Phonemes is individual sound units. Like in the word cat, it would be the individual sounds k, a, t. Neither of these young men had been evaluated for comorbid learning disorders because it was felt that their intellectual disorders covered all the bases as to why they weren't learning. They were forced, and that's my word, forced, to try to memorize sight words, but it didn't work because it didn't make sense to them. And they didn't know how to decode other words based on the memorizing of the sight words. Well, through evaluation, it did turn out that both of these young men had dyslexia because at a comparison of their developmental age to their phonemic age, there was a 3 to 4 year difference. So they had more potential than what they were showing. I had them connected up with tutors that used what are called multisensory learning approaches, such as Orton Gillingham, Slingerland, Wilson. And one of the families was able to pay for tutoring twice a week. That was the one with the chromosomal disorder. The other family could only afford paying for tutoring once a week, but the mother sat in on each of the sessions, and for the following week, but before the next lesson, she would repeat what the teacher had done to further help her son learn how to decode and understand sound awareness and sound symbol connection. At the end of 1 year, both boys were reevaluated by me. The one with the chromosomal disorder was reading very solidly at a 2nd grade level and was looking to find things to read. He would try to figure out words he saw while they were driving in cars and other places. He also took up guitar and learned how to play the guitar during that time. The other boy, who had a non-specific intellectual delay, was reading at a solid 3rd grade level. And this so excited him because that meant that he could fill out applications for jobs. And indeed, he did find a job because he could read enough to be able to do what was needed. Now, neither boy came back after they had made those gains because they ended up having other, life demands. But it did show that even with 1 year of more intensive help, these illiterate young men had become more literate, and they wanted to learn, and they wanted to be part of society and be productive. How many times have we underestimated not even a child with an intellectual disorder, but any difficulty, and assumed, which is a word I learned in high school, meant making a ass out of you and me. Thank you, Mr. Swanson. But we assumed that they couldn't go any further because they were struggling where they're at. Now, we used methods that are not standard in the schools. They're methods that have been around for 80 years, but they aren't part of the standard curriculum of most schools. Now, in some schools, this is changing as parents are really pushing more for identifying individuals with dyslexia and also providing multisensory language-based approaches to address that foundational difficulty in phonemic and phonologic awareness. Over this next week, I'd like you to think about maybe you have underestimated some kids. Maybe with some adjustments or a more open mind, they can go farther than what you have determined that they probably would. I'd like you to think about that. Look at the kids around you. Look at even the adults around you. Have you underestimated them because of some labels they may have? I'll talk to you next week. Bye.